Shinji and Warhammer40K. Chapter 6. Beyond the Heart. Part 2. Ramiel neared Tokyo 3. It floated slowly, massive, blue and diamond-like. It fired with its wickedly powerful beam at anything that came close. It approached as if saying, "I saw what happened to Satchu and Samshil. Close combat? Fuck that. I'm staying out here with a long-range attack and angled armor so that thing can't get at me."
"We're not going to use Unit 0? Misato asked. "I thought it was fully repaired."
"No, it's still in the testing phase. It would take too long to reconfigure it for battle. The enemy's just entering Tokyo 3 airspace right now," was Ritsuko's reply. The operations director looked at the monitor showing the Ava cages. "Once more into the breach, Shinji. Be safe." "Preparations complete," said Makoto.
"Launch Evangelion,"
she commanded. "Machine spirit, let us fight as one," thought Shinji. This time, while the same rage and hunger stirred, there was now some recognition. He knew the Ava, and the Ava knew him. Unit 1 soared up towards the service, impatient. "High-energy reaction detected inside the target," Shigeru shouted suddenly. He pushed aside some of his long hair. It was a wonder they hadn't forced him to get a haircut yet. "It's converging along its radial point. Emerging! Oh, shit!"
"Shinji, dodge it!"
Misato shouted. "Misato-san, what?" In another time he would have been caught unprepared. Shinji managed to cross the Ava's arms over its head and raise the strongest AT field he could muster. The attack splashed upon a red hexagonal plane and was amazingly deflected. The beam shot out to the side, burning a hole right through a city block, perfectly round from building to building until it began to burrow into a mountain. Still the Ava and the Angel struggled. The beam continued and the field held up. Below, however, was another story.
"Power reserves are dropping rapidly,"
Maya said.
"The Evangelion's draining too much power to hold its AT field."
"The capacitors can't handle it," added Makoto. The Ava was forced to its knees. The bright lance of energy began to spark around it, carving up all the things around the Evangelion as minute perturbations in the field changed its angle of deflection. It was this chaos in the field that kept it at bay, for otherwise it would have matched Shinji's known AT field and simply blown right through it to vaporize his Ava. The nerve command center shook as explosions happened below ground. "The capacitors are blowing! They can't handle the super surge response to the drain!" Makoto shouted.
"Recall the Ava!"
was Misato's order. The control officer punched at a button that started to reverse the electromagnetic catapult. Shinji yelled out as he felt his last reserves of strength being drained. The very last of the Ava line's capacitors blew as it sank below ground. The AT field failed, but the beam only managed to clip Unit 1's left chest plate. Sophisticated armor melted instantly, and Shinji screamed as LCL temperature rose. It was soon over though, and in this instance he was able to leave the entry plug conscious and on his own.
"Shinji!"
Misato was there.
"Are you all right?"
"I'm fine, Misato-san." He winced as he got out. "How damaged is the Ava?"
"We're not out of the fight yet. Just rest for a while. We've got planning to do."
He nodded weakly. He couldn't win his battles alone. He had to stand together with the others. Ever had communication and innovation been the strength of humanity? It was one of Nerve's surface bunkers. Makoto stood beside Misato as a special adjutant, while far down below in the Ava base, Maya relayed comms to and from it through a specialised datapad.
"According to the data we've collected so far, it's presumed that the enemy automatically attacks objects within a certain range," said the glasses-wearing lieutenant. "Its particle accelerator cannon will always target and fire at any object invading this area." Misato sat with one leg crossed over the other, a deceptively relaxed pose. She responded flippantly when she saw both drone and induction cannons destroyed, both with pinpoint accuracy and from range.
"How about the AT field?"
"Active. A strong enough field is present to make it visible by its phase shift space." He sighed. "Any attack with cannons or such like would be as effective as throwing stones."
"And with it right above Tokyo 3, we can't drop in 2 mines at it."
Misato licked her lips.
"Ritsuko, how strong is that AT field? Is it stronger than the Ava's AT field?"
"With the enhancements I made, it can be assumed that they are equal. If you're hoping for a neutralized AT field, it can be done. Except for the fact that the Angel apparently has an infinite power source and we don't. The improved AT field projection system drains far more power than it used to."
"Really? How much?"
Ritsuko turned to her assistant.
Maya? On average, normal operations, the chaotic pattern AT field consumes 100% more power, or double that of the standard AT field pattern. During the drain, it matched the output of the enemy's charged particle beam attack, and had to increase its drain by around 500% of that. Existing power connections were only able to hold this transfer for 17 seconds before the circuits collapsed.
Misato uncrossed her legs and leaned on her thighs, putting her hands together on her chin as if praying.
Both offense and defense are very slick. This thing's like a flying fortress. Defensive situation? The target is just above us, penetrating into the Tokyo 3 City Zero area. A gigantic probe with a diameter of 17.5 meters is headed for NERV's headquarters in the geofront.
What's the ETA? One of the screens blanked out and displayed plain black figures. At just past midnight, at 6:54, it will have breached all 22 levels of defensive armor and will penetrate NERV headquarters, Makoto added.
Damn! Less than 10 hours left.
Well, Misato, should we send up a flag of truce? Ritsuko asked sardonically.
Not just yet. How's the pilot doing? Is he trying to listen in? He's on the other side of the ether cage. According to the medical report, there's no permanent damage done other than perhaps increased nerve pulses due to hypersensitized skin.
Ritsuko smirked.
He was out there for less than 20 seconds, and already much of the rebuilt sections of the city are destroyed again.
Misato winced.
Does he know? I don't think so,
Maya responded.
He just looked so eager to have another shot at the angel, no one had the heart to tell him.
Misato sighed.
I've been briefed. It's the unanimous decision of the city committee and this war plans directive that whatever manner I choose to destroy the angel, it must be with Unit 1 from outside the city.
I imagine that will limit your options, Misato.
Not really. We can't close into the target anyway. I already have an idea.
Long-distance attack from outside the target's range? Asked Futsuki.
Yes, sir, she responded. A single-point attack with a high-energy convergence unit, without first neutralizing the target's AT field. There's no other way.
And what do the Magi say?
The answers from Supercomputer Maggie were 2 affirmative and 1 conditional affirmative.
This gets Unit 01 outside the city, doesn't it? Misato smiled sheepishly. There's no reason to reject it, Gendo responded grimly. You may proceed, Captain Katsuragi.
Yes, sir! You know you concocted an insane plan, right, Operations Director Katsuragi? Asked Ritsuko with a raised eyebrow. By the calculations we performed, the data from Unit 1's limited deflection of its attack. We'll need at least 180 gigawatts of power to pierce the AT field. Yeah, Makoto was moaning about not having any turbo lasers on stock, whatever those things are.
A laser won't help us here. The AT field seems hardly bothered by heat. The 2 women passed what looked like a massive rifle.
The positron cannon we have can't handle that much power. Then the answer's simple, isn't it? I'll just borrow one that can.
Misato held up a sheaf of official papers.
For this reason, we, the Special Institute NERV, hereby requisition this automatic positron cannon from 3 o'clock today.
Even if you want it, that's just insane, mumbled the officer on duty. Misato smiled her best charming smile.
We'll do our best to return this in its original condition. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Wait. The prototype positron cannons are long-range attack. This means Shinji Ikari-san would be attacking from outside the city, right?
Well, yes.
Then please take it with our compliments, Misato-san. The officer on duty and many of the technicians bowed gracefully. Misato laughed weakly.
Railway? You can take it now. Be careful, it's fragile.
The Evangelion Unit 0 detached the hangar roof and reached into the building. It took the massive crate in its arms and set off back to NERV. The notice about the planned blackout was spread all throughout Japan. Coolers and capacitors were bought from all over, sometimes even ripped right out of power plants just for Misato's plan. An atmosphere of optimism prevailed over Tokyo 3, and all NERV employees worked with tireless dedication. The faster it was done, the better. Not just for the sake of the human race, but that Shinji Ikari could actually take his Ava and get to outside the city as soon as possible. Shinji was just astounded at their amazingly high morale in the face of such clear and present danger. He felt a presence behind him. Hello, Ayanami-san.
I am here to inform you of the schedule of Operation Yashima. As always, her tone was precise and apathetic. It will begin at midnight. The 2 pilots, Ikari and Ayanami, will scramble at the cage at 5:30 today. At 6 p.m, ready units 1 and 0. At 6:05, launch. At 6:30, arrive at the emergency base on Mount Futagoyama. Wait there for further instructions. When the day changes, the operation starts.
Shinji nodded. What time is it, Ayanami-san?
The last clock I passed read 25 to 3.
Do you always make it a point to watch the clocks, Ayanami-san?
Yes.
And by counting seconds, do you always know how fast you're walking?
Yes.
Shinji's grasp on the railing tightened. He'd thought his life was empty before, but at least he had the sea. That sea which brought to him a world dreaming while in wakefulness. That sea that destroys time itself. He never imagined someone could live in such a hollow existence. He took a deep breath and turned. Then, it's later. We must talk. Would you please sit with me over by the vending machines, Ayanami-san? She nodded, and so they sat there, drinking chilled tea. There was an empty blue bucket seat between them. Silence engorging itself upon minutes passed. At finding his can half full, Shinji asked, Have you always been so alone, Ayanami-san? Rei put aside her empty can. She had drank it, not quickly but methodically. She took some time to consider. The answer, without a doubt, was yes. At the same time, she had to answer, No. Then please tell me who, for a time, took away your loneliness. And there, she told him. She was a child and the memories were dim, but through that veil of imperfect recall Rei could see a tall man in a black suit. He had a plain face and seemed at all times frowning, but never at her. Those lines in his face crinkled into peaceful valleys. He was a Section 2 agent, tasked with guarding and tending to her. He had lived with her in that dingy old apartment that was originally his, when Tokyo 3 was new and it was filled with labourers and messy, incomplete families. She remembered him for he was kind. She remembered him, for he was the only one she knew that had shouted angrily directly to Gendo's face. This nameless Section 2 agent, more than anyone, had raised her. He'd taught her how to take care of herself, as a child learning the life skills that would serve her well later on. How to cook simply, how to deal with injuries, how to let the hours simply pass by. He taught her how to endure. Then one day he just went away. She waited for his return and he never arrived. There was a knocking at the door, and then there was Gendo. He told her that she was finally old enough to start doing her duty for humanity. She stood there and nodded. She had done as he asked ever since. This was just after the contact experiment. Gendo suddenly had all the free time he needed to supervise her development.
The one I do not remember has told me this, that we are all born to suffering. Both pain and joy are transient things. We must endure until the very end, for then we shall suffer no more forevermore. I am Rei, and Nirvana is within me.
She stared at Shinji, with her eyes still red and unblinking, but somehow deeper now.
My purpose is the Evangelion. As I suffer, I shall ask for nothing and need nothing. My purpose is me.
Shinji stared back. She was used to seeing pity, indifference, or outright scorn. What she saw in his gaze was something she couldn't identify, yet akin to all three. It made him seem as immutable as the stars. Prayer may cleanse the soul, he said at last, but pain purifies the body. She nodded.
You are correct, Pilot Ikari.
And knowing this, you pilot the Ava? Do you seek its pain? Does your own suffering seem muted in its own greater torment?
No.
Why do you pilot it if it doesn't ease your pain?
It is my bond.
To what, my father?
To all people. To humanity.
Shinji dropped his drink. The can clattered and rolled. His limpid fingers twitched, and in his face was such frantic, lost desperation.
You're
strong, Ayanami.
I have nothing else.
Nothing? His expression was begging. Surely there must be more to life.
I need nothing more. It's my duty. It's enough.
Shinji stood up suddenly. Ayanami, you are strong, but you are also a person. People are not tools. People are not weapons. People are not meant to be used as you have been used. Please, Ayanami, tell me, do you want to live?
My want is immaterial. I can be replaced.
Shinji stomped upon the dropped can, sending chilled tea spraying around his foot. Wetness splashed upon Rei's calves. Slight surprise showed in her expression. Shinji turned to look at her, his expression tight and furious. For a moment she feared he might slap her.
She had felt that before, from Gendo, whom Shinji looked too much like at that moment, when she failed. She recognised it as negative reinforcement, for he had explained it carefully. Succeed and be rewarded, fail and be punished.
How have I failed this time, Akari-kun?
Shinji held his hand out. Rei put her own on top of it. His fingers grasped hers, and he half-dragged her back to the Ava cages, towards Ava 1. He let go and walked a few steps away. He turned back to address her. Humans are made to create their own choices.
But I am not human, Pilot Akari,
she longed to say. You must be capable of creating your own destiny. This is the power inherent to all of us. This is why we fight. This is why we must protect. This is why you are worthy. Shinji pointed to the metal beast behind him. The Evangelion may be your link to humanity, but it can also be humanity's link to you. He turned to it. You suffer as well, Evangelion. I feel it. Humanity must be worthy of your own sacrifice. We must all suffer that the dream may live. It is not right that you endure so, nameless, alone. The power of humanity is knowing, the power in being, the power in sharing. Shinji looked back at her again and grinned madly. You are Ayanami Rei. He put both hands to the railing and shouted to Unit 1. If we must fight angels, then let us fight them as those worthy in ourselves. We need no other guidance, no future than what we can make. We must battle the will of heaven. The Evangelion's eyes flashed suddenly. Then I name you Titan, cast down, forever raging against the heavens, power even older than the gods. The Evangelion's eyes glowed. Cast in the shape of man, made to fight humanity's enemies. You shall carry our will unto eternity. I name you! He leaned over the railing. Evangelion! I name you Titanicus, Principio Aeternis! The Evangelion roared. It roared like it had never roared before. Its roar rang for every corner of nerve, and deep within the geofront a gigantic white figure even twitched in its crucified repose. It was a roar that goes right to the very soul, a roar that brought out a similar surge of savage energy in the human heart. It brought all who had heard it a mix of hope and fear. This was the roar of a predator true and unsurpassed. Slayer, murderer, wrath, that which shall devour gods! Evangelion, said Shinji again, his voice lost in the Ava's unleashed power. Know thyself. He raised the fist up and grinned some more. And know! I am Ikari Shinji! Together we shall crush the enemies of humanity! The Evangelion began to thrash about in its bindings, sending technicians fleeing for their lives. Alarms rang all throughout Nerve. Shinji turned back and grinned at Rei, his eyes glassy and unfocused. You'll never be alone again, Rei. You're the sister of my soul, and together we shall stand upon the end of times. I swear it upon our blood, and under the sight of this machine god. Everyone else was freaking out, from the lowest security detail to Magi itself. All in Nerve felt that force of change, billowing through the corridors, and AT fields stroking at their own separate personal identities. 2 children stood there, unaffected, posts of order in that chaos, understanding each other at last. He's insane. She's insane. We are the same. And then there was Gendo. He rushed to the scene, frowning. He beheld the spasmic motions of the Evangelion, and there nearby the 2 children. In that chaos they were doing nothing more than talking, and... was that almost a smile in Rei's face? Shinji turned and actually grinned at him. What have you done? He almost asked. Then, recognizing the futility of that, turned to Rei as the only one he could trust. What has happened here?
Pilot Akari has named the Evangelion. It is Titanicus, Scourge of Heaven, Principio Aeternis, carrying the will of man unto humanity.
Why? Its machine spirit has suffered for too long, lost without the knowing of itself, replied Shinji. The machine spirit needs acknowledgement to function. From the meanest switch to the greatest factory, the machine spirit functions best if they are appreciated. How can we do that if we do not know their names? A machine spirit, Gendo scoffed. How ridiculous. Science is what makes things function, not such childish ignorance. That may be, but the Evangelion definitely has one. Shinji laughed, somewhat hysterical. It knows itself now. He looked up at his father and bared his teeth in glee. You cannot take away the name, father. Once given, it cannot be returned. The one thing you can't take away. All of Nerve was still in frenzy. The Magi were busy calculating the volumes of feedback data it's received. For the first time in many years, he had felt again true fear. There was still the Angel boring through layers upon layers of armour plate. The plan Katsuragi brought out only had an 8.7% chance of success. And then the sheer triumph on that boy's face. Before he even knew it, his fist was at that face. Shinji fell back, collapsing from the force of the blow. He fell face down. There were multiple gasps. The third child looked up, blood dripping from the left edge of his lip. There behind his father and most of the command crew, from Fuyutsuki to Maya. They had all followed, for if it was urgent enough that it could draw the attention of the Nerve commander. Rei took a step forwards. "Commander," Misato growled. Damn. The thought flashed through both Ikari minds. It was time to radically improvise upon their scenarios. Gendo opened his fist and flicked his hand as if throwing something away. He adjusted his jacket and turned from his son. "I will not tolerate any more of your childishness. This is a critical situation that demands we maintain reason." Gendo pushed his orange glasses back up his nose and caught Ritsuko's eyes. She flinched. "Akagi, there's obviously something wrong with Unit 1. Shut it down and prepare a full analysis." Ritsuko hugged her datapad to her chest. "No, we can't." "Are you disobeying orders, Dr. Akagi? Are you starting to become useless?" "We can't. We have no chance of doing this without Unit 1 and you know it. I can shut it down, I can perform some tests, but we need to keep to the schedule. The machinery is already on the way. The base is being set up. We have no other choice." He nodded. He withstood all other disapproving gazes, from Misato's open ones to Fuyutsuki's weary acceptance of it. "The Evangelion is Unit 1. It is a weapon. It needs no other name. Anyone that refers to it as anything else is disturbing morale and will be punished accordingly." He turned his head to look again at his son. The boy crouched there, his eyes so full of betrayal and anguish. He made a slight huff and walked away. Then Gendo was gone, back to his office, and leaving, as it seems, a stain even upon the very air he walked through. Shinji looked so sorry, so defeated, so disappointed. Misato was at his side, instantly, and hugging him.
"That's how your father is, Shinji. He's an asshole. Don't think too much about it. Right, all?"
The other people gathered there nodded, even the techs nearby. The Evangelion had already quieted down, as if offering its own agreement. Rei was surprised, though she didn't show it, to see just how much, or how little, regard the others had for their commander. They obeyed through fear. Shinji stood up and nodded slowly. It went better than he had expected, the unforeseen reaction of the Evangelion aside. Gendo has lost his composure once. His armour had cracked. He could be made to lose it again. A dark voice laughed and laughed and laughed.
"I'm tired of waiting," Toji groaned. "It's time to go to the shelter."
Kensuke shook his head and readied his camera.
"No, I made sure to read my father's data. I'm certain this is the time."
"But they aren't showing up." He turned around to look at the gathered crowd of teenagers from their class. Some of them were carrying banners such as "Re Heart Shinji" and "Fighto."
"This could get ugly, Kensuke."
"They'll be around. Trust me. Too bad class rep won't see it. She's such a killjoy." "Ada! Shizuhara!"
Oh, crap. It was sunset. They were gathered on the downslope of a hill facing away from the road, and the winds were starting to blow cold. From behind them a girl with freckles walked, her face set into righteous fury. She'd taken one of her elder sister's jackets, the one in black with red trim, and decided to just wear it on her shoulders. Under it, she had her arms crossed over her chest, disapproving. A sudden burst of wind hit the hill, sending the jacket flapping all around her like a cape. "Inquisitor Horaki!" someone gasped. Hikari merely narrowed her eyes at the unflattering nickname. She walked down towards them with deliberate slowness, as if stalking them. The students all were seemingly frozen in their places.
"Ada!"
she yelled again.
"Did you really think I wouldn't know?"
Kensuke sighed and held his camera up to videotape her.
"And in this, my final moments," he whispered. "What I was kind of hoping,"
he replied in a louder voice. He sighed.
"We can't hide anything from you, can we?"
Hikari made a gesture.
"Okay, fun's over.
can't say that, someone said from the crowd. You're getting too full of yourself, Araki, a group of boys put in. You can't order us around. Hikari sighed theatrically. She took out a hand from under the jacket and held out for everyone to see a small black book with the Nerve logo embossed on it. Below that was written, by special order.
Do you know what this is? Any of you?
At all the blank looks, she continued.
This is a special dispensation from Nerve and the Tokyo Free City Council that authorizes me to monitor Shinji Ikari's contacts with his peer group. You want to call me Inquisitor Haraki? Fine. I know all your names. The last time Ikari-kun was almost killed just protecting these two idiots. He can't have any more distractions in battle. If you don't clear out of here by the time I count to 3, I will write your names in this booklet and have all you idiots expelled. Oh, wait a second.
She put her finger up to her lips and looked cutely thoughtful.
Your name's already in here, and in the copy I keep at my house. I guess it's only my good nature keeping you around here after all. It's just a question of, should I erase these names or not?
Another gust of wind set her jacket flapping again, like the wings of a predatory bird.
1.
They fled. Toji and Kensuke remained.
Aw, class rep,
Kensuke moaned.
There goes my street cred.
Tsukishi's right. We shouldn't have risked it.
The only reason I'm allowing you up here is because you're considered honorary Evangelion pilots now.
She tapped her foot in irritation.
If you get killed, it's your own damn fault.
Then she smiled slightly at their mournful faces. She sat down with them. Under the jacket was a small shoulder bag. She took out 2 bentos from it.
Here, I thought you boys would have gotten hungry waiting out here.
Toji took one and held it to his cheek. It was still warm. You're the best, Hikari. The sunset hid her blush.
Look!
Kensuke shouted out, jumping to his feet. 2 Evangelions emerged from under a disguised bunker hill, gigantic, purple and blue, silhouetted against the sun. They could almost hear groans of pure anguish from behind the lookout hill. Godspeed, Evangelions, they saluted. We believe in you, said the 3. The temporary field base was already set up, at the far side of the mountain away from the Evangelions. It was close enough to run massive cables to and from the staging point.
Is the Evangelion all right? Could we really do this?
Misato asked. Ritsuko unfolded a divan chair and sat down, a mug of coffee in her hands. It was already dark outside.
I ran all the tests I could. There just isn't anything wrong or changed in the Evangelions. There is no reason for it to go haywire like that. Other than that Shinji naming it,
Misato sighed.
Ritsuko, is there such a religion that worships technology? I hate to think Shinji's been pulled into a cult or something.
The scientist smirked.
That's odd. Usually religions hate technology. What can we call the opposite of a Luddite? Something to the order of Mechanus or similar. But I'm certain I've never heard of it.
She frowned. Perhaps...
Misato.
The captain stopped in her pacing.
Yes? Shinji's right. The Evangelion does have a machine spirit.
What?
Misato pulled up a chair and sat facing her old friend.
Really? Of course. Otherwise it couldn't go berserk on its own. It uses the organic computer architecture. What we have might be some form of rudimentary consciousness. It's not unthinkable, as we have set the Evangelion up as everything short of a full AI. Anything more and it would be pointless to try and pilot it, I understand.
She looked beyond Ritsuko.
Do you think Shinji's in any danger? The only one who could answer that would be Shinji himself, and he doesn't seem to think so.
The portable military-grade computer beeped on the table nearby.
All preparations complete.
An indistinct, static, distorted voice said,
Electronic supplies ready. We are ready to begin operation.
Misato stood up and went over to the tent flap. She breathed in the cold night air.
Well, time to go to work.
Ritsuko hastily gulped down her coffee, ignoring the burning down her throat. It was all still insane. She didn't believe it could work, but as a scientist she'd limited all other variables. There was no other option but to succeed. It was midnight. Operation Yashima was commencing.
Shinji-kun, you're using energy from all over Japan. Hang in there.
Misato said to him over the comlink.
We've put the trust of all of this nation in your hands. You can do it.
Yes, Misato-san.
Start the connections.
Power began to flow. Cooling systems began to hum, to handle all the heat that such a rapid exchange generates, even just as a side effect. The positron rifle went active.
Pilot Ikari, Rei said to him over Ava-to-Ava radio. Do not fear. I will protect you. Ayanami-san. Goodbye. She closed the link.
Release all final safety systems,
shouted Misato.
Operation Yashima is a go! Shinji, remember, since the positron beam is influenced by the magnetic field, gravity and the revolution of the Earth, it will not fire in a straight line. Don't forget to adjust for that error. You must hit the core precisely,
Ritsuko had to remind him again.
Be absolutely certain when you fire. We will have to disconnect both Avas from the power grid, so be mindful. This is a time-insensitive operation. You can do it, Shinji,
Misato had to remind him of that.
We believe in you.
All energy to the positron rifle, Makoto announced. The countdown began. Both Avas kept their AT fields down to keep from being noticed by the Angel. Ritsuko had theorized that by the strongly geometric shape of the Angel, and that by it had no eyes, it could sense things by its AT field. Anything that moves into its sensory area would be vaporized. Now, if it used any other means of detection, like echolocation or radar, she might have been able to do something, she complained. An AT field would just glow like a bonfire and be targeted from no matter what distance. Shinji pulled the trigger. The rifle fired. High energy reaction detected in the target, Makoto shouted. What? Ritsuko leaned over him to see it off the screen. The two beams of energy met, curved around each other, and struck hillsides both behind their respective targets.
No, they're both affected by each other's packed magnetic field.
So accurate. Did the Angel realize it beforehand? Its own AT field couldn't have withstood that.
Shinji! Hurry!
Misato shouted. The pilot hurriedly ejected the fuse and slapped in a new one. He grit his teeth as he waited for the rifle to cool. Too long, he shouted within his mind. Another high-energy reaction, Makoto shouted.
This is bad.
Misato grabbed the radio.
Shinji-kun!
Flash! Ayanami! The blast shield she carried, in itself the re-entry armour of a space shuttle, was nearly blown off Unit Zero's hands. High-density ceramic composites began to melt, and under that even the Evangelion's own armour. Rei held back a scream. Still, she didn't raise her AT field, being mindful of the operation's power requirements.
It won't hold!
Someone yelled. 10 more seconds, Makoto put in. Come on. Faster, faster, cycle faster!
Fire, Shinji-kun! Fire!
Shinji pulled the trigger. The positron-packed energy beam lanced out, barely touching Ramiel's old continuous energy beam, and burrowed deep into the Angel's thick blue armour. The Angel reeled and wobbled and shut off its own attack. It fell with deceptive slowness into Tokyo 3, splintering buildings in its way.
We did it!
Misato shouted. She slapped Makoto's shoulders.
We made it!
High energy reaction! What? Shinji had put in another fuse, just out of quickly ingrained habit. His eyes widened as the other Ava leapt in front of him again, even though the protective shield was almost gone. The Evangelion had its own armour. She would shield him with her own body. I will protect you, he felt her voice whisper in his mind. Goodbye, Pilot Ikari. Please be satisfied with my replacement. Ayanami! Machine spirit, help me! The Evangelion Unit 1 pushed itself forward and kicked out Unit 0's legs from under itself. Shinji pulled it the rest of the way down to the ground, and a beam passed mere meters above them. The two Evangelions rolled a short distance down the mountain, and arrayed from the positron rifle.
Shinji! What are you doing, Shinji?
He missed. We have failed, Ritsuko said tonelessly. The odds were against us and the numbers have proven true.
Misato slapped her.
Wake up! We still have a chance! While we live, we still have a chance!
She looked at the screen.
Shinji-kun!
Shinji shouted over the radio, and by accident had set it to wide transmission rather than just to the other Ava. Rei! Rei, can you hear me? He pushed the other Ava away just as Ramiel attacked again.
Pilot Ikari.
You're alive! Thank goodness! Rei opened her eyes to see Unit 1 stand up and roar. It stepped in front of her fallen Ava.
Why? You have sworn to protect me. I will not let you die. Not here. You're not disposable. You're not a tool. You have a name, Ayanami Rei, and people will remember you when you're gone. Unit 1 roared again. Machine spirit. Why are we taunting the angel? In the name of humanity, live! I cannot have you die in my place. Didn't I tell you? Together we shall stand at the end of time. Ramiel fired. The Evangelion roared once again. It bent aside and the beam missed it by mere inches. How? This angel is blind. Machine spirit, you are magnificent. It sees me only by my AT field. It knows where I am, but not as what I am doing. Its beam must pass through my own AT field, and by the grace of the machine spirit I can see where it will go. Its own supreme accuracy is its downfall. That is humanly impossible. Even computer impossible. You cannot defeat it. Not this Rei. I will tire. I will make a mistake. I will die. Rei felt as if stabbed. Pilot Ikai. Do you trust me, Rei? Yes. The Evangelion roared. Ramiel had paused as if weighing in its calculations. Could it perhaps increase the diameter of its beam? Then give me your trust, Rei. Extend your AT field to its furthest. Shinji made the Evangelion stand with its arms out, as if offering itself to a nameless god. Have faith that the power of humanity shall yet shine through. Believe that together we will stand against the darkness until the very end. Rei believed, and thus she extended her AT field. Shinji felt it. It filled him, so pure, so accepting. He let out his own AT field to its limit, damned the power drain. Ramiel attacked again, lowering its own AT field to create its strongest attack yet. The beam lashed out and simply curved around the Evangelion. Ritsuko leapt to her feet and grabbed the radio from Misato's hands. Shinji, what have you done? She took a look at the figures. The drain was only half more than normal. It fired again. It curved again. 2 AT fields, Ritsuko-sensei. I don't need to resist the attack. Let it instead be redirected, little by little, trapped within the 2 layers that know each other. Ever the power of humanity has always been in each other. The angel cannot have this, for it is alone. It fights alone. It will die alone. He grinned at the angel in the distance, slowly rising again. I know you now, monster! You will hide no secrets from me! 2 Evangelions roared. It can't be, Misato whispered. It's going to flee? It's afraid. Shinji had the Ava extend its hand out, and the positron rifle all but leapt to it. His reasoning was that if he could push things with the AT field, why can't he pull with it? That it defied all what Ritsuko knew about the AT field so far. Didn't seem to bother the Ava. Know the name of your destroyer, you who have come down to judge humanity! Shinji shouted to the radio and external speakers. This is Evangelion! Titanicus! Principio Eternus! In its name, die! It was an image that would be slapped onto many an international news magazine. Unit 1. No, Principio Eternus. Stood there with the other Ava looking up at it in what seems like adoration. It had a one-handed grip on the extremely long rifle, supported by its AT field to keep it from breaking. In the name of humanity! Die! Shinji almost didn't need to aim. The positron beam shot out unerringly, as if homing into the angel's core. It punched through its AT field. It blew through its blue armour, as if it wasn't there. Ramiel let out a screech. It fell. And it died. Shinji rushed to Rei's ejected plug. The metal was smoking hot, but he didn't hesitate. He wrenched the door open and stepped into the warm liquid within. Ayanami! Are you alright? Ayanami! I believed, she said softly. What am I to do now? Don't ever say goodbye when ending a conversation, Rei. Don't ever say you have nothing. It's just too sad. You're crying. Must I cry as well? No, Rei. Shinji looked up, still in tears. No, I'm happy. I don't know how to feel. What should I do in times like this? I think... Shinji choked back his sobs. I think you should smile. Be happy in that you are alive. And so she did. She felt indeed happy. Whatever you say, Pilot Ikari. It is as I will be. For you have said to believe, and I do. Together shall we stand until time itself ends. My name is Ayanami Rei. I shall love that which you love and shun that which you shun, until time itself ends. There was a great cheer as the Evangelions returned to Nerve. It was unknown who started it, but as soon as the purple Evangelion showed its face, it begun, Principio Eternus! Principio Eternus! It was infectious. From every technician to the very last JSSDF soldier, it rang all throughout Nerve. Hail! Principio Eternus! Principio Eternus! That cheer grew even louder, as impossible as that may have seemed, as Shinji came into view. Fuyutsuki grabbed Gendo's arm. If you go out there to fire everyone, how will Nerve function? There are always replacements. How can you be sure you're not just inviting in new plants from Seal or the others? He withstood Gendo's glare. You are angry because it seems that you are losing control. Must we elaborate that by losing control completely? Gendo clenched his fists, then exhaled. You are right, Sensei. These petty emotions are useless. It still stands that they are disobeying the standing orders. When Alexander turned back from India, his soldiers did not revile him for his failure to conquer, said the old man. They loved him all the more. There was an instant hush as Gendo emerged. He stood at a high gantry, staring down at everyone gathered in the loading platform. Tense silence stretched out for 10 minutes. I was wrong, he said at last, his voice stern, as if daring them to remember. Just this once, to consider a mere name as significant to the operation of Nerve. I shall allow this informal designation. For disobeying a standing order, everyone here will be docked a week's pay. For exemplary performance under combat, everyone here will be awarded 1 week's bonus. Silence. Then someone started, Ikari! They all began to shout it. Ikari! 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 It didn't matter who they were referring to. In the distance, Shinji met his father's eyes. He bowed as if in thanks. He's your son, Gendo, said Fuyutsuki. It's perfectly all right to be proud. He simply turned and walked away. No, Janine, no, I'm just recording something. You know, I have to yell loudly. Yeah, I know, okay, alright. Yeah, well, I had to get it recorded today, so I couldn't wait for you to... Okay. Alright, keep up the good work. Right, yeah, I'll put that in, why not?